RSM with a CCS2 install. To get to your RSM site, you need to go to www.nrminc.com, listed here at the top of the page. This is our main website with a lot of useful tools, and access to the RSM site is through here. Go to the RSM login link in the top right corner, click on it, and that will bring you into the login page. If you don't have a username and password yet, you can do that by create a new user link. Click on that, and that will bring you to the information page. Fill out all the information, click Add User, and then NRM will activate you for your RSM site. Once you have your username and password, enter that information in, click Submit, and that will bring you to the main menu page. We are going to go to an NRM walk-in cooler and show you what the RSM site looks like. Once you log into the RSM Summary Page, all of this data on here is real-time information. Anytime a variable changes on the controller, it will automatically update on this page. To go through this page real quick, to familiarize yourself with it, we have the description of the walk-in cooler. Any additional notes that may or may not be required is listed here. This status section is the status of communication and alarms. The green flag means that everything is communicating. There is also a website communication, so if your network is down, this flag will go to red, and that just means that our communication is down and we have no information coming into the server. Temperature section. Each controller has a space temperature and an evaporator temperature. The space temperature is used for the controlling of the refrigeration. That's the temperature that the refrigeration will turn on and off with. The evaporator temperature is used to know that it's safe to shut the fans off, diagnosing purposes, and defrost purposes. The next two sections, the DIF, which stands for differential, and SP, which stands for set point, is what your controller is being controlled at. Set point is the low point of the refrigeration, so the refrigeration will shut off at 42 degrees, and it'll turn back on at a 3-degree differential. So it'll turn back on at 45 degrees in this scenario. This 24-hour is the average temperature over the last 24 hours. This status section is the status of the controller. Run mode means that our system is in control. Defrost, SOL stands for solenoid, which is the call for cooling, and fan, evaporator fan. If our controller is calling for any of these items, for instance, at this time, it is calling for defrost and is calling for the evaporator fan. If it was calling for cooling, the solenoid valve would be opened with an on symbol. Next few sections are statistical sections. We have starts in a 24-hour period. So we record the number of times we call for cooling under the solenoid column and the number of times the evaporator fan has turned on. Percent runtime 24 hours and percent runtime 7 days. This lets you know on how much the system is actually running in those time periods. So again, we have the solenoid column, which is the call for cooling, and the evaporator fan column, both for 24 hours and 7 days. On this page, we also have door heater information. Your cooler or freezer may or may not have door heater control installed on it. If it does, it will be displayed on the screen. And this gives you all of the information of what the door heater is doing. We have the relative humidity calculation. We have the power that the door heaters are running at, the percentage of power. And then you also have the statistical information of percent power 24 hours and percent power 7 days. So that is it for the summary page. I'm going to go into the trend now. And to get to the trend, if you click on this graph symbol, that produces a graph of all of the data that we collect. To explain what we're looking at, we are looking at today over the last 4 hours. You'll notice that there is a pull-down menu. You can look at this graph in different lengths. You can go down to as low as a half-hour length, or you can go up to as high as a 7-day length and see the overall view of what was going on for the last week. You can also go back and view previous history. So you can click on the calendar symbol and go back to the first day that your system has been installed. On this graph, the dark blue line is the space temperature. The light blue line is the evaporator temperature. The red straight line is the set point that we are trying to maintain. And then this section down here is the trace of what our controller is doing. Every time you see a line in the up position, that means it's calling for that item. So for instance, at this time, our controller was calling for the solenoid, also the evaporator fan. The blue line is the defrost. Then we have the shutdown line. We have the ESM, which stands for Energy Savings Mode, which is a setback scenario on a walk-in cooler. Then we have the bypass. So from this graph, you're able to do a little bit of diagnosing. You can see when we call for cooling, you should see the evaporator temperature dropping, the room temperature dropping. When it reaches its set point, the refrigeration, we stop the call for cooling, the compressor shuts off, and the fans shut off. That's it for the graph. And this concludes the basic RSM system for our basic DCS2 controller install. Thank you.